In a bustling corporate office, where roles often define respect, a hardworking cleaner named Angela goes about her day, unnoticed by most. She's diligent and kind, but her manager, Mr. Carson, sees her as nothing more than the help. One afternoon, when Angela asks for her well-deserved break, Mr. Carson dismisses her request with a sharp sneer. "You don't need a break," he snaps. Humiliated but silent, Angela finishes her shift and quietly leaves. A week later, the office is abuzz. An inspector is coming to assess workplace standards. Employees scramble to impress, and Mr. Carson dons his best suit. When the inspector finally arrives, jaws drop. It's Angela, now in a position of authority, her presence commanding the room. With calm precision, Angela starts her inspection, but the tension in the air is unmistakable. Will she confront the manager who belittled her, or is there something bigger in store? As Angela walks through the office, clipboard in hand, the tension is palpable. Employees whisper behind her back, stealing glances at Mr. Carson, who struggles to maintain his composure. His confident demeanor falters as Angela methodically inspects each corner of the building, her eyes scanning the environment with the precision of someone who knows every inch of it. What the staff doesn't know is that Angela wasn't always a cleaner. She had years of experience in compliance and workplace ethics before circumstances forced her to take on the humble role. When she left the office that day, humiliated by Mr. Carson's words, she had no intention of staying silent. The opportunity to return as an inspector wasn't just a coincidence. It was fate aligning in her favor. But Angela isn't here just to settle a score. Her purpose runs deeper, and her next steps will leave the entire office questioning everything they thought they knew. Angela's inspection moves to the break room, the very place where her request for a moment of rest had been so casually denied. She pauses by the coffee machine, running her fingers along the counter, her silence heavy with meaning. Mr. Carson, who had followed her closely, clears his throat nervously. "If there's anything you need, Inspector, just let me know," he says, forcing a smile. Angela doesn't respond. Instead, she begins asking employees questions about their working conditions, her calm tone masking the weight of her inquiry. Meanwhile, whispers ripple through the staff. Some recall seeing Angela before but can't place her, while others notice Mr. Carson's unusual behavior. A young intern, Emma, quietly watches from her desk. She remembers Angela, the quiet woman who once helped her clean up a spill without hesitation. Emma wonders what led to this dramatic change in roles. As the inspection progresses, Angela uncovers more than she expected: missing safety records, unfair workload distributions, and a troubling pattern of how certain employees are treated. Each discovery strengthens her resolve. But what's her ultimate plan? And does Mr. Carson sense the storm brewing right under his nose? Angela steps into the manager's office, where Mr. Carson nervously adjusts his tie. He watches her carefully, trying to read her expression, but her calm demeanor gives nothing away. She scans the room, her gaze lingering on the certificates on the wall and the perfectly arranged desk. "Interesting," she murmurs, jotting something down on her clipboard. Mr. Carson forces a chuckle. "So, Inspector, I trust everything is in order?" he asks, his voice wavering slightly. Angela finally looks up, meeting his eyes for the first time since her arrival. "Not quite," she replies, her tone even. The room falls silent. Outside, the staff gathers in hushed groups, the tension spreading like wildfire. Emma, the intern, overhears snippets of conversation, mentions of unfair treatment, strict rules only applied to some, and Angela's quiet strength as a cleaner. It's clear that this inspection isn't just about policies. It's uncovering something much deeper. Back in the office, Angela places her clipboard on the desk, leaning slightly forward. "Mr. Carson," she says, her voice steady but firm, "there are serious violations here, ones that reflect a complete lack of respect for your employees." His face pales as she continues, each word cutting deeper. The air is thick with anticipation, and everyone knows something big is about to happen. Just as Angela finishes her statement, there's a knock at the door. Before Mr. Carson can respond, Emma steps inside, her hands trembling slightly as she holds a folder. "I think you'll want to see this," she says, her voice soft but determined. Angela takes the folder, her expression unreadable, and begins flipping through the pages. The room grows heavier with tension as Angela's brows furrow. Inside the folder are employee complaints, written but never addressed, detailing instances of mistreatment, favoritism, and unfair denial of breaks. Angela's lips press into a thin line as she reads a familiar name scrawled at the bottom of one of the reports, her own. Emma's voice breaks the silence. "I found these in an old cabinet. They were supposed to go to HR, but it looks like they were deliberately hidden." Mr. Carson stiffens, his face turning a deep shade of red. Angela places the folder on the desk, the weight of its contents undeniable. "It seems this isn't just about poor management," she says, her voice sharp now. "This is about a systemic problem, and it's clear someone's been trying to bury it." Mr. Carson stammers, his confident facade crumbling. Outside the office, employees strain to hear, sensing the unraveling of secrets that could change everything. Angela stands tall, the room charged with unresolved tension. Now, she says, her voice cutting through the air, "It's time to address the truth." Angela steps closer to Mr. Carson, her calm demeanor now sharpened with purpose. "These complaints show a pattern, not just of neglect, but of intentional disregard for the well-being of your staff," she says firmly. Mr. Carson opens his mouth to protest, but Angela holds up a hand, silencing him. "You had countless opportunities to do the right thing, but instead, you chose to ignore them. This is more than a breach of policy, it's a failure of leadership." The door creaks open again, and this time, a senior representative from corporate walks in. Angela turns to greet him, and the staff outside exchanges startled glances. They hadn't realized this inspection carried weight far beyond their office. The representative nods at Angela before addressing Mr. Carson. "We've reviewed the findings," he says, his voice cold. "Effective immediately, you're relieved of your position." Mr. Carson's face drains of color as the words sink in. He stumbles over an apology, but Angela isn't listening. Her focus shifts to the staff gathered outside. "This isn't just about one person," she says, stepping into the open office. "It's about creating a workplace where everyone is treated with dignity and respect." As the corporate representative begins outlining plans for a complete overhaul, Emma approaches Angela. "You didn't have to do this for us," she says softly. Angela smiles, her expression warm but resolute. "I didn't just do it for you. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Just as the staff begins to process the changes ahead, Angela receives a message on her phone. Her expression shifts subtly, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Without explaining, she pockets the phone and turns back to the room. "It seems my work here isn't done," she says, leaving everyone wondering what new challenge lies ahead. As Angela walks out of the office, the once tense atmosphere begins to shift. Employees exchange hopeful glances, realizing that change is finally within reach. Emma watches Angela leave, inspired by the courage it took to stand up for what was right. Outside, Angela pauses for a moment, looking up at the building she once cleaned in silence. This time, she walks away not as someone overlooked, but as someone who made a difference. The message she received earlier still lingers in her mind, a reminder that her journey isn't over. Back in the office, the staff begins to feel the ripple effects of Angela's actions. Policies are reevaluated, and for the first time, their voices are heard. Emma quietly files away the last of the hidden complaints, knowing they'll no longer be ignored. As Angela drives off, a quiet smile crosses her face. Justice was served, and the power of respect and resilience shone through.